it's another Monday, so welcome back to the Student Switchboard. This week we're going to be talking about group work challenges. Group work is a part of pretty much every single university course. I've not heard of a single one so far that doesn't actually involve some element of group work at some stage or another. It can turn out to be one of the most rewarding things that you do during your university years, or it can turn out to be a little bit of a nightmare. Learning to work with other people is obviously incredibly useful for your future career. Whatever job you're going into, you're probably going to have to deal with other people at some stage. So it is understandable that colleges and universities want to prepare you for that by putting you into situations where you have to work with others. But it can sometimes be incredibly stressful when you are working towards a grade that is going to be impacted by the work of other people. So here are just a few of my tips for working on a successful group project. The first thing to note when approaching a group project is that different people have different working styles. You might be somebody who likes to get the work done really far in advance, you like to be completely organised weeks before the project's actually due in, you like to have that all worked out, and the other people in your group, or a couple of other people in your group, might be completely the opposite. They might be people who thrive on stress and pressure and they like to leave things till the last minute. When you are working on a group project, obviously you cannot please everybody, therefore you're going to have to be prepared to compromise to some extent. That might mean that you are not going to get things done maybe quite as quickly as you would like to have them done, but at the same time, don't let yourself be pushed around. If you are someone who likes to be quite organised and have things done early and the other people in your group are telling you, no, it's fine, we're going to leave it until the week before, speak up and let people know how you feel. Just be open and honest about how you work and make sure that they do the same, and that will make it clear to everybody from the very start how this is going to go. Number 2, find out what people's strengths are. You might be someone who is really good at speaking in public. You might really love standing up in front of the class and giving the presentation. Incidentally, if that's not the case and you don't like speaking out in front of people and giving presentations, watch out in the next couple of weeks because I'm going to be doing a presentation 101 video for those of you who feel a bit nervous about it. I know I was certainly one of those people. Different presentations work in different ways, so in some cases you will have a situation where the tutor wants every single person to speak. In other situations it might be a case that only one person gives the presentation, and in that situation you have to figure out who that's going to be. It's unfortunate if you discover that 2 of you within the group both really want to give the presentation, but that's something that you're just going to have to sit down and compromise on. Find out what the next thing that you both feel confident in doing is. Are you confident at doing the research? Maybe you're really good with PowerPoint and you really want to make the presentation and make it look all nice and professional. Whatever your strength is, make sure that you talk to everyone else in the group about it so that you can figure out something for every person to do. Do just make sure that every single person in the group is involved, everyone has a task to do, everyone has something to work on, and that way no one can complain at the end and say, well, no one gave me anything to do. Speaking of that, make sure that you put the work in. If you're in a situation where you're put with a group of people who you maybe don't gel with particularly well, or there's someone who's particularly forward in the group and you feel like they're maybe taking over and you don't feel like you have a say, if it's getting particularly bad, you can go and talk to a tutor about it and explain that things are maybe not working very well within the group or there's a bit of tension. However, don't be tempted to just sit back, take a back seat and not do any of the work. The problem there is that when it comes to maybe group assessment, when you have to assess each other, which sometimes happens, we had to do that for a couple of our group projects and it was really scary doing that kind of peer assessment stuff, but you just run the risk that when it comes down to something like that, that the people in the group will say, oh, that person didn't contribute, they didn't really do very much, and if you're only speaking up after that saying, well, I was being bossed around and I wasn't given the chance, then it probably doesn't look very good. Whereas if you make it clear early on that you really are willing to do the work and you want to have something to work on, then no one can have a problem. And lastly, this is a controversial one, but I think it's an important one. In most cases, you are probably going to be assigned a group by your tutor. However, there are opportunities that come up sometimes to choose your own group. The temptation, for very obvious reasons, when this comes up is to choose to work with your friends. That can be a brilliant idea because if you already know each other really well and you know what each other's strengths are, it can make it really easy to allocate tasks, to get the work done quickly and to create a really good presentation. One of my most successful group projects that I ever worked on was with a group of people who I actually didn't know all that well to begin with, but we became really good friends through the process. And so working with your friends can make it really, really easy and it can actually make it quite fun. However, there can be situations where working with your friends can actually be detrimental. Firstly, it's very easy to get distracted when you're working with your friends. It can go from, right, let's sit down for an hour and do a solid hour's work, and then you find that it's an hour and a half later and you've been sitting discussing what happened at the weekend. But more importantly than that, it can actually put a little bit of strain on your friendships. depending on what the project is. If it ends up being a particularly complicated project that has a lot of issues within it that you have to work through, that can cause some problems. Or if you find that there's a bit of a clash in personalities, you might get on brilliantly with someone as a friend in a non-working situation. So you might have brilliant fun going out for dinner with this person and going to the cinema and going on nights out with this person. But when it actually comes to working, you might find that you actually work very, very differently, and it actually ends up causing quite a bit of friction in your friendship. I have heard a couple of horror stories of friends who work together in group projects and at the end of it never spoke to each other ever again. So I'm not trying to put you off working with your friends altogether, because as I say, it can actually be a really enjoyable, fun experience, but there's also quite a lot of pros to working with people that you're not already close to. Firstly, you might find that you end up with some brand new friends. So if you work with someone you've never worked with before, you might end up going, oh, I've always seen you in class but we've never really talked, and now that we're chatting we have tons in common, so that can be a good thing. But also working with people you don't already know, potentially from different cultural backgrounds or even just from different cities, can actually be really helpful in terms of creating a really interesting project. Having different perspectives brought in can make something really unique and original, and that can be something that you might miss if you work with people that you already know really well. It's entirely up to you, and if you're sure that you and your friend can withstand any of the complications that group work could bring, go for it, and I'm sure you will have a great time. So that's it for my group work challenges video. I hope that you've enjoyed that, and I hope that that has been helpful if you're currently struggling with a group project. Let me know in the comments down below, or tweet me and let me know how you've been getting on. If you have been doing a group project, let me know if it's been going well. I really hope that it has been. Lastly, I just want to say, if you are working in a group project and you feel that it isn't going well and it's incredibly stressful and you're working with people that you don't get on with, I know that it's horrible right now, but do just know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I had a couple of situations where I worked on group projects with people who were actually really lovely people, but in terms of the way that we worked, it just didn't work together, and it was a horrible, horrible experience, and it definitely stressed me out. To the point that I went and had a little cry in my tutor's office at one point. These things happen, they're not fun, but they're just something that you have to get through. They come up from time to time, and just keep thinking that once you get this out of the way and it's done, you never have to think about it again. If it doesn't end up going as well as you wanted it to, do keep in mind that it's only one little part of your overall grade. You've got plenty of other opportunities and plenty other classes to really pull that mark up. And always, always, always remember that if it is going badly, you can go and talk to your tutor about it. Unfortunately, there might not be anything that they can actually do in terms of rearranging groups, but they might be able to mediate, come in and have a chat to you in the group and figure something out to make it a little bit easier for you. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed that, and I will see you again next Monday. Bye! One of my biggest distractions when I was studying was deciding that I was peckish after the first half hour or so and getting up and wandering off to the kitchen if I was at home to go and make